You want a war? You're gonna get one.
Now get the guns, the drugs, to my generation, will take the fall. The saints, across the nation, and it's a sex, the gods, the fakes, the fraud, the messing with me. Come on, come on, come on, let's get it out. Move to the music, play that fucking music. Live through my music, yeah.
Hey Yo Soldier, Reliving the War episode 221, the 31st of January 2000. Both Raw and Nitro were coming from Pennsylvania tonight. Raw's in Pittsburgh while Nitro's in Wilkes-Barre. Right, before I forget, we need to look at Thunder. At the start of the show, WCW President Kevin Nash, or Commissioner Kevin Nash because WCW can't remember what goes on from one week to the next, stripped Big Sid of the WCW Championship, saying as Sid pinned the wrong Harris brother during last week's qualifying match. Sid was then put in a 2-on-1 caged heat match against Ron Harris and Kevin Nash, and Sid became champion once again after winning that main event. So, in short, stripping Sid of the championship was absolutely pointless. Sid also won that match with a crossface, a move he's never done before, and I assume he was told to perform this move due to what was going to happen on Raw this week. More like a cross forehead though, am I right? Yeah. That person Arn Anderson called out last week to ask if he'd be at Thunder, it was this guy right here. He claims to be related to the great David Flair, but I don't know, he doesn't have Davey Boy's rosy red cheeks and raccoon eyes. Ric Flair applauded Big Sid as the show faded to black, and we will hear from the Nature Boy a bit later on. Kevin Nash isn't at Nitro, he calls the NWO and Jarrett says Nash is putting him in charge tonight even though the other boys didn't hear Kev say this on the phone. Nash says he wants a certain pay-per-view match booked for Super Brawl and Jarrett says he'll take care of it. NWO 2000 cut an in-ring promo to kick off Nitro. On Raw, the New Age Outlaws take on Al Snow and Steve Blackman. Big Stevie tells Snow he's sick of all these gimmick names. Head Count, Snow Bunnies, Head Cheese. There's a real threat to this world, seeing as Kurt Angle's having trouble against the Chief Robot Monster, but Al has two more suggestions. Snowstorm, a gimmick that would see our hero hold an umbrella and wear a raincoat, and Snowballs, a gimmick that speaks for itself. Blackman's in no mood, he heads to the ring in an effort to win Tag Team Gold, but as the match got underway, a few familiar faces showed up in the audience. Perry Saturn, Dean Malenko, Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit. Seeing this live as it happened all those years ago was absolutely insane, and after watching the Monday Night War all over again, you really do get a better understanding of how important these signings really were. These are young guys who work their asses off every week, not old timers looking a part-time, high-paying job, and they were all hungry after feeling mistreated at WCW. Everyone talks about what the final nail in the WCW coffin really was, and I think this moment right here has to be brought up when discussing that topic. Anyway, Road Dogg gets thrown into the audience and the WCW guys back off. The roadie decides to throw the first punch and the crowd goes insane when Benoit and company fight back. One thing I will nitpick here is the fact that Jim Ross calls the guys the Radicalz on commentary. The group's already been given a name and this kinda takes away from the fact that this was supposed to be a surprise and it was supposed to be unplanned. But it is a small nitpick and it doesn't really take away from how awesome this moment really was. Billy Gunn takes a suplex from Saturn, Eddie then goes upstairs to perform a frog splash, Dean Malenko delivers a jackhammer to Road Dogg, and the beatdown ends with a diving headbutt from Chris Benoit. The crowd continue to go nuts as the Radicalz make their way back up the ramp, and backstage we learn that Mick Foley was the one who invited these boys to Raw tonight. They don't have jobs apparently, but Saturn says he hasn't had fun like this in a very long time. Mick asks Eddie what it was like to be in an arena that's actually filled to the brim with paying customers, and Foley then tells the boys that the best way to get over in the WWF is to make a lot of noise. Mick says the Radicalz are going to have a great time on Raw's War tonight, but they're going to need to speak with Triple H if they want to get hired as full-time performers. We'll check in with the Radicalz a bit later on. Over on Nitro, the NWO start their promo off with Scotty Steiner showing off his girls. This gets a good reaction from the audience. What doesn't get a good reaction is Ron and Dawn Harris getting the NWO shirts as they're made official members of the faction. So yeah, we've hit rock bottom, soldiers. It can't get any worse. Jeff then reveals who Sid's going to face at Super Brawl. This must be the match Kevin Nash told Double J to book for the pay-per-view, and it's Double J himself. Another announcement that gets a round of boos. We don't know if Jarrett's acting on his own accord here, but Double J is the #1 contender, and tonight he's going to team up with Ron and Don Harris to take on Sid and 2 other guys in a 6-man tag. Sid's partners will get revealed by Jarrett a bit later on. Mark Madden is now part of the full-time WCW commentary team. Schiavone lies when he says Bobby Heenan's feeling under the weather when, in reality, he's getting moved to WCW Worldwide where Bobby really doesn't want to be. Check out my WCW Blunder episode all about Heenan if you want to learn more. Harris Brothers in the NWO. Mark Madden now a full-time commentator. Yeah, things are certainly looking up for WCW, aren't they? Fuck this company. Ric Flair arrives at the arena in a limousine, but Terry Funk seems a bit dubious about Rick coming back to WCW. Arn Anderson's trying to play peacemaker, but it looks like Terry Funk doesn't want anything to do with Ric Flair. Kurt Angle cuts a quick promo next on Raw, and the Big Show gives his Royal Rumble evidence to Triple H. On Nitro, Lash LeRoux takes on Evan Karagias. So, Kurt's come home to Pittsburgh, and Jim Ross announces that Angle's facing The Rock tonight on Raw. Angle imitates The Rock when he says, "Finally, your Olympic hero has come back to Pittsburgh." The crowd boos, and Angle reminds everyone that he's still undefeated in the WWF, while JR says Angle hasn't been pinned yet. The record books state that Kurt lost to Taz at the Royal Rumble. The Rock may be the People's Champion, but he's no match for the Olympic Champion, and Kurt's going to beat The Rock tonight in front of his amazing hometown fans. Backstage, the New Age Outlaws are complaining to Triple H about the Radicalz attacking them earlier on. Hunter and Steph remind Road Dogg that it was he who attacked the Radicalz first, and this is their problem, they need to deal with it. The Big Show then walks in with a new haircut. Not sure if it's an improvement or not, but it sure does seem to confuse Triple H quite a bit. In Luke, Tori is also standing in DX's locker room. On SmackDown, Kane had to listen to X-Pac tell the story of what really happened over the holiday season, and yeah, X-Pac banged Tori. Tori then decided to kiss Pac right in front of Kane, and so now she's part of D-Generation X. Anyway, Big Show brings that proof to Triple H, proof that Big Show won the Royal Rumble. He pauses a videotape that shows the final Royal Rumble elimination, and in this still shot you can see head of security Jim Dotson. Jim had a perfect view of whose feet touched the floor first, and Jim says from where he was standing, The Rock actually was the first guy eliminated. This doesn't matter because I can't believe how a haircut and a shave can make someone look like 20 times less intimidating. What was the Big Show thinking? Triple H doesn't really care about this so-called proof. He can't take someone else's word as evidence. So Triple H needs actual video proof of the elimination. Show gets in Triple H's face. He says he'll bring the proof to SmackDown this week, and Show then threatens Hunter. Have a listen.
And if you don't give me what I want Thursday, I'm going to take it right out of your face.
If you don't give me what I want, I'm going to take it right out of your face. He's going to take his match against The Rock out of Triple H's face. Okay then. The Outlaws laugh at Hunter while saying it looks like Triple H has a big problem, and Hunter says at least he's got a tall problem, clearly taking a jab at the size of the WCW guys. On Nitro, the LeRoux vs Karagias match was another Cruiserweight title tournament showdown, and there were a few tournament matches that also took place on Thunder. The finals are going to take place at Super Brawl 2000. Lash says if he wins, he's going to change the title name and it's going to be called the Cajun Weight Belt. And LeRoux actually does go far in this tournament. He also debuted a new move here, the Whiplash 2000, and he did get a pinfall win over Karagias here, and he goes on to the semi-finals. Not even 2.5 minutes here, folks. Let's move on.
Now that your daddy's back, David, you gotta stop smoking crack. He's gonna kick your ass, show you the door, lock your skinny ass in the figure four. Say goodbye to your girl, goodbye to Crowbar. You'll always be a jobber and never a star. David, stop being a dick. You're gonna get smacked by Daddy Nature Boy Slick Rick.
David Flair and Crowbar take on the Mamalukes next on Nitro. On Raw, we've got Devon Dudley versus Christian. So is David going to start acting normal now that his old man's back in WCW? It appears not. He just stands there laughing to himself when interviewed by Mean Gene Okerlund. The Mamalukes attack in the backstage area. This one's a Bensonhurst street fight and the Mamalukes are putting their tag titles up for grabs. It doesn't take long for the boys to end up outside where Big Vito gets backdropped into the snow. Great stuff. That absolute mad bastard David starts throwing snow all over himself in an effort to imitate his hero Shawn Michaels, but unfortunately these backstage frolics don't last long as the guys make their way to ringside. Disco Inferno's at the commentary table, wearing his sick sunglasses. He says the Bensonhurst street fight is the Mamalukes speciality match as the action finally gets in the ring. And the match continues with David getting whacked with Vito's title belt. Vito then puts a trash can on David's wee nature boy and he smacks the lid with a crutch. The spot gets a great reaction. Johnny the Bull takes over inside the ring with Crowbar as Miss Hancock makes her way down the ringside once again. Crowbar pulls off a slingshot leg drop onto a chair that was resting on Johnny's face and he continues to impress with a plancha, wiping out both Mamalukes in the process. Flair and Crowbar grab a table from under the ring. Disco says the Mamalukes don't need his help right now as Miss Hancock takes a seat at the commentary table, but he quickly changes his mind when Crowbar goes for a moonsault. David Flair gets a trash can to the head because he was dancing around again like an idiot, and the match ends with Crowbar getting put through the table. The Mamalukes retain their tag team belts. I've been a bit critical of WCW hardcore matches in the past, but this one was pretty good. They took the time to plan out some spots, which can sometimes make all the difference. On Raw, both Bubba Ray and Edge got involved in the Devon vs Christian match. This wasn't a fair one-on-one fight and Christian got the win thanks to Edge kicking Devon from behind. Christian won with his fallen inverted DDT. After the bell, Bubba took out Edge and the Dudleys planned to double team Christian. They pulled off their signature headbutt before going back to Edge. Bubba and Devon were ready to put Edge through a table, but he got saved by the Hardy Boys. Bubba ended up getting put through a table when Matt performed a middle rope DDT, and Devon didn't get off lightly either. Jeff put Devon through another table with a crowd-pleasing swanton bomb to the outside. After the match, the babyfaces meet up with the Radicalz backstage and everyone seems really friendly. But the Mean Street Posse show up to throw their weight around, and trust me guys, that's a lot of weight. The Posse say they aren't to be messed with. Mick Foley says this introduction should be a bit more formal, so the Radicalz launch an attack and the Greenwich Hardmen get taken out. Look, we can all get excited for the Radicalz showing up on Raw, but beating up the Posse is a step too far. These aren't WCW jobbers that Guerrero and company are dealing with, it's the WWF's cream of the crop. Watch your back, Radicalz. Watch your fucking back. Complete Ted Brand Knobs has a stack of money for Jeff Jarrett. Double J's accepting bribes tonight, and so Brand's taking advantage of Jarrett's kind offer. Knobs is fed up of Fit Finlay. He wants Finlay taken out for good, even though these two were totally cool last week. And so Brand wants Jarrett to put Fit in a match against the total package. Of all the folks you could have picked, Brand, you picked Lex Luger? Yeah, okay then. On Raw next, Too Cool take on the Big Show in a 2-on-1 match. On Nitro, Mr. J Biggs addresses Booker T, plus we've got The Wall versus Billy Kidman. So, Booker T comes out for a match, but he gets interrupted by Jay Biggs. Biggs informs him that the Harlem Heat theme song isn't Booker's to use. It's a song that belongs to Harlem Heat Incorporated, and Booker T is not a part of Harlem Heat anymore. Biggs informs Booker that he can't use that theme song from now on, but the boys have found Booker a new song. The new song plays, it's some generic rock music, and then Biggs drops another bombshell, a really ridiculous bombshell. The letter T. Yes, the letter T in Booker T's name. That belongs to Harlem Heat too. The boys somehow got the rights to a letter of the alphabet and Booker's no longer allowed to use it. If Booker keeps calling himself Booker T, he'll be guilty of copyright infringement. And Stevie Ray says Booker should grab his old GI Bro gear and try to make a living off that because he can't wear the Harlem Heat Flames anymore either. Big Titty says that he's the only T around here. We're completely forgetting about Mr. T right now, but Big T says if Booker has a problem, it can be sorted out right now. Booker T does want a fight, but J Big sends Harlem Heat back so he can keep running Booker down. He says Booker probably doesn't have a wrestling license either as he begins walking down to the ring, but then Midnight shows up and Biggs gets put inside the ropes. Biggs thinks Booker wouldn't hit a man with glasses, but Booker says, yes I would, Four Eyes. But the beatdown gets abruptly stopped when Harlem Heat 2000 make their return. Midnight gets taken out, Booker gets beaten up, and when Biggs gets the opportunity to hit Booker, he starts selling his neck. Our boy's looking for a nice easy claim, it seems, but come on, you've got the rights to the letter T, what more could you want? Imagine the creative team sitting around the table and someone suggests that Harlem Heat should take the letter T away from Booker. Someone must have said, "Oh, this is absolutely fantastic," and everyone else agreed. Double J calls Fit Finlay into the NWO's dressing room and Jeff's backstabbing Brian Knobbs. He's instead making Finlay the referee for an upcoming Knobbs vs Total Package match, and the reason why? Well, Brian didn't pay him enough money. Knobbs freaks out in the locker room after seeing this all go down, but who cares? Norman Smiley got jumped by 3 count backstage for no reason at all. He gets chased up a corridor, but he loses the boys and he finds some sweet gear inside the demon's creepy casket. Norman tries to steal the gear, the casket begins to close, and Norman screams as he gets locked inside. Poor Norman. The Wall took on Kidman next. This is a sold out rematch, and yeah, it wasn't bad. As good as Kidman was, I also think he needed the right opponent, and that right opponent showed up towards the end of the match. It looked like Kidman was about to lose, but Vampiro showed up to give Billy Boy a hand. Billy ended up winning via pinfall, but clearly he wasn't happy with Vamp interfering. These two are going to meet again, and it's going to be on pay-per-view, so I guess that's something to look forward to. As expected, the Big Show destroyed Too Cool in this 2-on-1 match on Raw. Big Show laughed at Scotty and the Grandmaster before the bell rang for looking so ridiculous, but come on Show, you aren't looking so hot yourself right now. Too Cool were able to put the big man down. We got some double team moves from the boys, but it wasn't enough. Scotty Too Hotty takes a chokeslam, Grandmaster Sexay takes a falling powerbomb. Show wins the match, but The Rock appears on the Titantron to address the match winner. Rock makes fun of Big Show's haircut. He's no longer a long-haired 7-foot piece of monkey crop. He's a short-haired 7-foot piece of monkey crop. The Big Show should really go back to Supercuts and get his $5 back. As for Kurt Angle, the Great One's getting prepared to win a gold medal himself. A gold medal for kicking Kurt's ass all over Pittsburgh in our next match. The WWF are presenting a Lumberjill match later on, sponsored by Shawn Michaels Sniff Sniff Delivery Service. HBK's donated a hefty amount of snow and the ladies are going to roll around in it later on. Sounds delightful. It's The Rock vs Kurt Angle next on Raw. On Nitro, Nature Boy Ric Flair makes his WCW return. So, what brings Ric Flair back to WCW and what's his motivation for making this return? Well, he puts over the local sports teams first of all. He then says the word's been starved of the greatest wrestler of all time for way too long. He says Ric Flair is wrestling. 20 years ago, Rick had no peers. 10 years ago, a few cats tried to step up. And today, at 50 years old, Ric Flair is still the man. Space Mountain's still the oldest ride in the park with the longest line. But it's time to talk about some recent happenings. The powers that be apparently called Flair a while back to ask him to come back as the company commissioner. Flair said he refused because he's the greatest wrestler alive and it made no sense. So tell me, Rick, why did you serve as company president throughout a pretty fair portion of 1999? I think what he meant to say was Russo wanted him as an on-screen character and not an in-ring performer, but anyway, Rick wants to talk with Terry Funk. Flair doesn't want a partnership with Terry. There seems to still be some animosity between the two. So Flair drops an elbow on John Cena and he calls himself God before Funk shows up on the entranceway. The fans boo Terry, they're 100% behind Flair tonight. Funk calls Rick a banana-nosed, horse-toothed bastard, and he talks about how Flair's made so much money and how much of a household name Ric Flair really is. But Terry thinks Rick's jealous of him, and he thinks this comes from Mick Foley's book. One sentence in Foley's book that's made Flair go crazy, apparently. The sentence was, Ric Flair wouldn't make a decent sized pimple on Terry Funk's ass. And by the way, Mick didn't write this in his book. I looked it up again to make sure, and he definitely didn't say it. Funk wanted Flair to forget about their past and help him against the NWO. Flair refused because he's so petty. Flair's got a son running around here like an idiot, and Rick seemingly has no interest in disciplining him. Though if David was Terry's son, he'd make sure to beat the shit out of him. Fantastic. Funk tells Flair to go away. The Enforcer and the Funker have more than enough to take out the NWO, but Flair isn't going anywhere. Rick says Mick Foley hasn't been watching TV because Flair's went from Starrcade to WrestleMania back to Starrcade again, and the Nature Boys gathered more world titles than Funk has cows on his stupid little chicken ranch. Rick wants to fight Terry right now. The Funker makes his way down to the ring. The Nature Boy makes fun of Terry's shirt that says Living Legend on it, and Funk ends up getting the better of Rick here. Rick gets put in the spinning toe hold just before security run down, and Funk starts taking out security guards as Doug Dillinger's merry men once again fail to do their jobs. The crowd cheers as Flair gets in a few sneaky shots of his own, but it's Slick Rick who leaves the ring first, and that's where the promo ends. Back in the NWO locker room, Double J says he just found Sid's 2 tag team partners for tonight's main event. And I don't know guys, it looks like Sid isn't happy with having such legendary superstars backing him up tonight. Nonetheless, Sid says someone's going to get powerbombed straight to hell in the Nitro main event. And then we cut to standards and practices. Lenny Lane and Lodi are giving up the gimmick because it sucks. They say they've already had one stupid gimmick and they don't need another one. So Miss Hancock's all on her own from this point on. On Raw, Kurt Angle struggled to get started against The Rock. The hometown hero failed to do any damage during the first moments of the match, though he put Rock down when the action went to the outside. Angle then grabbed the microphone. He wanted to know what was wrong with these people and why they wouldn't cheer him. He says he was born in Mercy Hospital just down the road before Rock takes the Olympic gold medalist out. And Rock then grabs the microphone to say,
It doesn't matter where you were born!
Inside the ring, Rock lays the smackdown with a few right hands, but Angle answers with a belly-to-belly. Rock fires back with a DDT and a Samoan drop, but that's when Kurt decides to leave the ring. He wants to make sure he doesn't get pinned. So he tries to head back up the ramp, but he gets stopped by Chief Giant Robot Monster Taz. Taz throws Angle back in the ring, Rock pulls off a spinebuster, and after a people's elbow, Angle gets pinned in the middle of the ring and Kurt can no longer claim he's undefeated. Taz wants a piece of Angle on the outside, but he ends up clotheslining the Rock. Angle's able to escape while Rock can't recover quick enough to go after the robot suplex machine. Backstage, the Mean Street Posse meet up with the Acolytes and the boys want no trouble. As a matter of fact, the posse want protection. This right here is the beginning of the Acolyte Protection Agency, and when Farouk and Bradshaw notice that the posse are willing to cough up some money, they're more than happy to guard them from Guerrero, Benoit, Saturn and Malenko. Bradshaw thinks this is awesome. He grabs a page to draw up a new business plan for the Acolytes. This turns out to be a logo. He names this new business the APA, and this little venture turns out to be quite successful for Bradshaw and Big Ron Simmons. X-Pac takes on Chris Jericho next on Raw, plus we've got a Snow Bunny women's title match. On Nitro, it's the Total Package versus Brian Knobbs. Finlay didn't have to do a single thing to Knobbs in this match. Elizabeth ended up hitting Brian with a baseball bat while the complete hit was on the turnbuckles and Fit decided to walk away. No need for Finlay to do anything else really. Knobbs then got the Sting treatment when Lex attacked him with a steel chair. The chair got closed over Brian's wrist and the Total Package stomped away. And after the beatdown, Lex once again called out Hulk Hogan. It looks like a Lex vs Hulk match is definitely on the cards, and yes, we will be seeing Hogan again very soon, brothers. Sting was nowhere to be found here, which is kinda odd after that appearance last week. The crowd were expecting the Stinger to show up in some capacity, as evidenced by their chants throughout this match, but he must have been at home watching Raw. This Raw match was not for the IC title, so the winner wasn't surprising. Jericho was surprised that X-Pac finally got to kiss a girl on SmackDown this past week, and he's even more surprised that X-Pac found a woman who's more stupid than he is. Y2J planned on giving Waltman a beating that he would never ever forget, but unfortunately it didn't work out that way. Even with Chyna standing in his corner, Jericho ended up taking a loss after Tori hit him with his own IC Championship belt. Had Chyna not distracted the referee, this wouldn't have happened, but X-Pac gets a victory over the Intercontinental Champion on Raw. Chyna, meanwhile, takes Tori out, but the cameras totally missed it. Next, the WWF presented that Lumberjill match sponsored by HBK. The women's title was on the line as the Cat took on someone called Hervina in a Snow Bunny match, and the WWF were just taking the piss with this one really. Not a lot to say. Hervina and the Cat frolicked around in the snow while the other women of the WWF launched snowballs at them. In the end, Jackie punched the Cat in the mouth, which again the cameras missed, and Hervina won the match and the women's championship. It was then revealed that Hervina is actually Harvey Whippleman. He says he's going to tell everyone he's now a WWF champion. And look at this, that old haggard dickhead Moolah launched a snowball that hit Michael Cole right on the head. Michael should have put his mic down and hit the old bitch right in the mouth. The women jump Harvey after the bout. HBK regretted sponsoring this match. Raw moves on, and I'm sorry guys, the women's segments on WWF programming right now are becoming real low points. Unfortunately, this doesn't improve for a lot of years. Oh yeah, it was announced on SmackDown that Mae Young's pregnant. My god. The Dudleys enter the APA's office and they're warned not to put a hand on the Mean Street Posse. Bubba then tells Ferg and Bradshaw about the problems they're having with Edge, Christian and the Hardy Boys, and the Dudleys decide that they too want to avail of the APA's services. The Dudleys say they'll write Bradshaw a check, and Ferg says if the check bounces, well, the Dudley boys are going to bounce too. Mick Foley's brought the Radicalz to Triple H and Stephanie McMahon. Foley's given Hunter the opportunity to sign these 4 former WCW superstars, and Hunter wants to know who the hell Mick thinks he is and who the Radicalz think they are. Mick says he's somebody who, like everyone else, is sick of seeing the Mean Street Posse on WWF television, and I would like to point out right now that Mick Foley speaks for himself. I, for one, would watch a full Raw broadcast with nothing but the Mean Street Posse. Hunter doesn't deny the talent standing in front of him, but he doesn't like how they attacked other superstars earlier on. Stephanie says she's heard of the reputation these guys currently have and how they don't respect management, and Benoit says all the Radicalz want is an opportunity. Hunter says he'll think about it. He and Steph will let Benoit and company know a little later on, and as for Mick Foley, well, Hunter will deal with him later on too. Screaming Norman Smiley emerged from the Kiss Demon's casket in full Kiss gear, and after a commercial break, the Demon complained to the cops about his stuff going missing. You're supposed to be a demon, dude. Why are you running to the cops like a little bitch? Next on Raw, the Holly Cousins take on Viscera, and we hear from Stone Cold Steve Austin. On Nitro, Kiss Demon Smiley takes on Shane Helms. Evan Karagias and Shannon Moore attack Norman before the bell, and Shane pulls off a fantastic looking frog splash. My god. The face paint doesn't seem to be giving Norman any kind of newfound confidence as Helms keeps the pressure on, but Smiley does get the knees up when Shane goes for a Vader bomb. We see a shuffle from the Screaming Demon, and then Tony Schiavone announces that Hulk Hogan just phoned WCW headquarters. The Hulkster took exception to Luger calling him out again, and Hogan will be at Thunder this week to confront the total package. This is a total lie, by the way. Hogan does show up, but he doesn't make an in-ring appearance, let alone confront Luger. Smiley slam from Norman, airplane spin from Helms. Norman then stops a top rope attack and we see a big swing from the Screaming Demon. If you thought that was good, Norman gets a little wiggle action that gets the crowd on their feet, and our match ends with a Norman conquest. I wish this match was a bit longer because these two work together very, very well. The Kiss Demon runs down along with some dirty cops. Smiley runs away and he escapes through the audience, so haha, Kiss Demon, your gear and your gimmick now belongs to Norman Smiley. Over on Raw, it appears the relationship between Crash Holly and Viscera has already broke down. That's a shame, seeing as they were so good together last week. Viscera's wheel kick missed by a mile, though Crash still took the bump. The big man found himself tied up in the ropes and the cousins took full advantage. Whoever Greg is, he's got cow balls, which is super important information, and Viscera fires back with a Samoan drop. Crash takes a huge sit-down powerbomb, but Vis takes way too long following up. And the match ends with Hardcore pulling off a crossbody while Viscera had Crash in position for a slam. After the bell, Bob gets tossed out of the ring while Holly took a big splash. Nothing special at all here, but what is special is hearing from Stone Cold Steve Austin. This interview aired on Halftime Heat, and Austin says he's feeling pretty good. He shows where the doctors went in through the front of his throat to clear out the spurs that were pressed on his spinal cord. He does say the neck brace he's wearing's pissing him off though because it makes it difficult to drink beer. Austin says he needs to be in the ring, but he's paying for the damage that was caused all the way back in the summer of 1997. He proved doctors wrong last time by coming back to the ring, but this time it was different. The surgery was absolutely necessary, but he plans on coming back stronger than ever. Stone Cold has unfinished business with The Rock, Triple H and The Undertaker. All these people who bring out the best in him. And Austin just wants to raise hell in the WWF because that's what makes him get out of bed every morning. JR then wonders when Austin's gonna return. and Stone Cold says 3 or 4 months. Sounds like a long time, I know, but the way we're getting through the Monday Night War at the moment, those 3 or 4 months are going to fly by. Matt Hardy takes on Bubba Ray Dudley in the Raw semi-main event. On Nitro, we've got Disco Inferno versus DDP. The Nitro match came about when Paige and Kimberly were getting interviewed backstage by Mean Gene Okerlund. Kim says her relationship with Dallas is stronger and sexier than ever before, and look at Dallas cheesing right here. He knows what's up. That no good wise guy, Big Vito, decided to slap Kimberly's ass, and Kim thought it was Disco. Disco says he didn't do anything while calling Kim a stupid bimbo, so he gets smacked in the face and DDP launches an attack. After a commercial break, Paige attacks Disco again, so the two made their way through the audience, which seemed to take a lifetime, and when they got inside the ropes, the bell rings to begin this impromptu match. The Inferno gets planted with a Uranagi while Kimberly cheers on. Disco totally misses a low blow, but Paige sells it anyway. Disco pulls off a Russian leg sweep before bringing the fight to Paige in the corner, but as always, Disco screws up by dancing in the ring and Paige comes back with a sit-down powerbomb. Dallas signals for the cutter and he pulls it off after countering a hip toss. An easy win for DDP tonight, but the story here is that Dallas and Kimberly seem to be back on the same page. So, on Raw, the Dudleys have a chance to get some revenge, and this time they have the APA in their corner. This isn't some crappy protection racket the Acolytes are running, this is the real deal. Matt had Bubba in a bad spot, so the Dudley boy needed some help. He wanted Devon to give him a chair, but Devon tossed the chair right over Bubba's head, and Matt got himself DQ'd when he used the chair on his opponent. So the APA hit the ring and the Hardy Boys got wrecked. Edge and Christian tried to help out, but they didn't do a very good job. The Acolytes were right there to stop them attacking the Dudley Boys. To show their clans that their services are worth every penny, the Acolytes allowed the Dudleys to order them around. The APA stacked up a few tables and they got the Hardy Boys in position for what was going to be a pretty insane table spot. Matt got put on the tables while the steel steps were put in the ring. Bubba then powerbombed Jeff from those steps right down to the stacked tables, and the way Jeff sold it was perfect. It looked like a killer move. I'm so glad the WWF decided to push the Dudleys around this time period. They had to take quite a few losses when they first debuted, but right now they're becoming another must-see WWF tag team. Triple H has made his mind up regarding the Radicalz. The game may have a main event match coming up next, but he takes the time to speak with Benoit, Saturn, Guerrero and Malenko before heading to the ring. Hunter says he and Stephanie have thought long and hard about this. Eddie tells Triple H to be careful because there's smoke coming out of his ears. Hunter calls Eddie a funny guy, and then the Radicalz are told to leave the building. These boys aren't ready to hang in the WWF, so Triple H isn't telling the Radicalz to leave, he's ordering them to leave. Dean says it's fine, these boys have walked out of places before where they weren't wanted. And as the Radicalz begin to leave, Mick Foley tells Triple H that he just made a big mistake. Triple H is scheduled to face Kane in our Raw main event. On Nitro, it's Sid, Terry Funk and Ric Flair versus Jeff Jarrett and the Harris Brothers. The Nitro main event begins on the ramp and on the entranceway. It's a big old brawl right here, but there's no sign of Ric Flair. As a matter of fact, Flair won't be competing in this match at all, so the babyfaces are at a disadvantage. Funk finds an equalizer though. He swings a steel chair at Jarrett and the Harris Brothers, though Jeff's able to take the chair away and the Dirty Funker takes a shot. When the match finally gets in the ring, Double J has to help out one of his NWO teammates. I can't believe these two are in the NWO, swear to God. And when Terry Funk throws an announcer's chair into the ring, the Harris brother just throws it back out again. Finally, Funk gets in the ring and he applies the spinning toe hold, but it gets broken up with another chair shot. The NWO then single Terry out, and it's very typical stuff here. As soon as Terry tries to tag out, he gets cut off right away. Eventually, Funk's able to hit Double J with a piledriver, but instead of tagging out, he goes for a cover. Thankfully, he's able to get another opportunity though, and the crowd goes crazy for Big Sid. At that very moment, Ric Flair shows up and he attacks Funk at the commentary table. Terry's been taken out of the match and Rick isn't hanging around to help out Sid, so it's now a 3-on-1 match. Sid's able to powerbomb Ron Harris, but the referee checks on Funk. This allows Jarrett to hit Sid with his guitar, and Double J wins the match via pinfall. Can Jarrett pin Sid again at Super Brawl 2000? We'll find out in a few weeks' time, for better or for worse. Not a great main event, though I do admit to being pretty interested in Flair and Funk reigniting their old rivalry. Let's hope they don't shit the bed when their inevitable match takes place in a few weeks' time. On Raw, Kane's entrance music plays, but the Big Red Machine doesn't show up. He must be at home nursing his big red broken heart, and so Triple H makes fun of Kane in the ring. He says Kane couldn't even hang with X-Pac. You know, he couldn't hang with X-Pac. Hunter gives Kane another chance to get down to the ring. He gives him 10 seconds to show up, and when Triple H's opponent doesn't show, we instead get Cactus Jack. Jack says he invited 4 people to Raw tonight, and Hunter had the gall to throw him out of the building. Malenko, Benoit, Saturn and Guerrero are 4 men Cactus has bled with, 4 men who can tear the house down, and 4 men who Cactus actually likes. So Jack thought that he could maybe forgive Triple H, but that's not going to happen. Instead, he's going to get a piece of Hunter right now on Raw, and so Jack gets in the ring and Hunter gets wrecked. Stephanie's joined the commentary table, though this is not a one-on-one match, even though we do have a referee. On the outside, Hunter's able to fight back, but he tries to bring the WWF title into the ring and Cactus dodges the attack. Eventually, Triple H makes a wise choice. He decides to leave the ring, but then the WWF champion gets attacked by Dean Malenko and the game gets tossed into the ring. The former WCW guys beat Hunter up, the crowd goes crazy as they throw Triple H into Cactus, and Hunter takes a shot with his own WWF title. Stephanie looks on as her husband gets beaten down, and it all ends with Hunter taking another shot with his title belt. Cactus and the Radicalz head back up the ramp. Eddie Guerrero has a big smile on his face. Triple H, meanwhile, seethes in the ring as Raw fades to black. Raw wins Reliving the War this week. The debut of Malenko, Saturn, Guerrero and Benoit was more than enough to secure the point. These guys were young, they were hard workers, only one guy ever got a real main event opportunity in WCW, and that opportunity was too little too late. Here they can make a fresh start with way more people watching them on TV every week, so it was a pretty brilliant move by the WWF to sign these guys. An absolute game changer right here for the company. Raw's now on 122 points, Nitro's on 78, and we've got 21 ties. In the TV ratings, Raw drew a 6.6, Nitro drew a 2.8. The next episode of SmackDown's a pretty big one, so I'm going to cover it in full before the next episode of Reliving the War. Every member of the Radicalz competes on Thursday night, and unfortunately one of the guys suffers a pretty bad injury. So hopefully this Sunday, Reliving the War SmackDown will be available on YouTube. The Big Show also shows his video proof to Triple H, and well, it's as concrete as it gets really. But we'll check that out this Sunday too, along with all the matches and moments from WWF SmackDown. Thanks for watching guys, I hope you enjoyed this video, and please take care.